Hey Cardfighters, Chris here from Vanguard Central, bringing you a newbie deck profile.
Stand up, Vanguard!
Just kidding, it's the nubatama deck profile. Along with their new support, I went for an Afterimage type build to give some really good early rushing abilities. Kind of combine that with the Shura Stealth Dragons to give some early strides that are good as well. So we started with the grade 3 Searcher. This might seem like a weird choice because they have really good things like the new one which unflips and Kuroko, which binds, which kills bound cards. But for Kuroko, the issue with this deck is I wanted their bound cards to go back to their hand so Afterimage could activate and I could grab my cards back. And then the other one, I had to choose this one because I'm not running stride foders in the deck. So I want to be able to grab extra 3s so that I can stride consistently. For the strides, they're kind of still in the works, but here's what we have so far. So far, it's one of the on-hit discard because it's really good. They lose cards if they guard it, and they lose cards if they let it hit. So, it's a lose-lose. We have 2 of the kind of the same exact thing, but instead they bind a card at random, and then if you have 3 Afterimage units, then they choose a card from their bind zone and put it into the drop zone. So I chose to run a bit more of these ones, just because it's at random. So they don't get to choose what they discard. So sometimes you'll be able to hit like a perfect guard, something that they didn't want to discard, which they would have avoided with the normal discard. So then we have one of the GB2 Shura Stealth Stride. So this is gonna, you choose a card at random from your opponent's hand and bind it face down, and then if they have 3 or less, you bind their whole field. So that's good just to get rid of interceptors, can help push for the late game, and also is 1 counterblast for getting bound cards that'll activate your Afterimage effects. We have 1 Jorurikan, these names are so hard, I don't even bother with them anymore. So he's good because he's gonna go over a Shura Stealth, and then he lets you, I think they bind 1 from hand and 1 from field, and then they go straight to the drop zone. So it's just gonna kill 2 cards for them for 2 counterblasts, which is pretty good. And then we have 1 of the GR. This is super situational, which is why I think you only need 1 of them, because it's gonna drop their hand down to 4 cards in one go. No matter how big it is, it's just gonna go straight down to 4 cards. So that's good for pressuring that late game. Play against OTT, something like that. They have huge cards in hand. It's a huge amount of cards in hand, but then you just drop them to 4, use some other cards to, get rid of some at random. Hopefully hit that PG they were saving, and then, get the win from there. Sneak out a win. And then I'm running 2 Agato Lords, which is the triple R from the new technical booster. And he is really, really good because he binds a card at random from your opponent's hand. Wait, is it random? I can never remember if it's random or not. Sorry. They choose and bind. So they get to lose 1 card from hand, but then if they have 3 cards or less, it gets a crit. So it kind of seals the game if they have no, if they only have 3 cards in hand, you're going to hit a card and they're going to go into 2, and chances are they're not going to be able to guard the crit on that. So that kind of seals the game up for them. So really good card. I would play more if I had them, but we do not have them yet. So that's unfortunate. For the grade 3s, running 4 Break Rides, because its Break Ride effect is so good. They discard a card and then they bind a card, and that bound card works for Afterimage, makes it harder for them to guard, and then just drops their hand even more. So you could Break Ride and then stride a Gato Lord to just kill their hand and then gain crit off of it as well. And then the other grade 3 we're running is the new Legion they got in the technical booster, Hokage Kongo. I want to be the Hokage, just like Naruto. If you enjoy Naruto, funny name, which I enjoy. But his skill is you bind a card at random from their hand, and then they bind their whole field. So you get a lot of binds, gets rid of intercepts, and can make some good power plays. But I like it just for the Legion effect, the Soul Blast to get plus 2k if there's another unit in your middle column. Guarantees Legion really early because you can just Soul Blast the Great 3 Searcher, your 1 and 2, and then it's 3 cards in the drop zone. So it's really easy to get Legion off. So that's why I really like him. So So the grade 2s, we're only running 2 of the mates. My original thought for the deck is I wouldn't need to run Cardfighters because this guy could search out grade 3s. But what ended up happening is that it was really hard to get 2 Shura Stealth Dragons on Vanguard, and so I wasn't able to do that as well. But I was able to stride pretty well normally, so I ended up not dropping him down to 2 just because he's the Legion mate, and that's why I needed him. And then we have 2 Kokujo. Kokujo is really good. He's the gets +2 every time your opponent's card is put into the bind zone. So when you're using him, you hit a full field that's like +10, +12 to him, which is super good. He's your main power unit, but I'm only running 2 because he ends up being mostly useful in those late game scenarios where you're binding a ton of cards in one turn. And then we have 3 of the new Afterimage grade 2. The GB one is not that great, I'll be honest, but I wanted an Afterimage grade 2 because I could be aggressive early and then he'll just go back to hand and stay safe within my hand so I can keep pressuring my opponent. And then we're running 4 bears. The bears are to activate Afterimage early game so that you can make really aggressive plays. I remember one game I was playtesting it, I basically called my whole hand on grade 2 because I wrote a bear. I hit my opponent up to 3 and it all went back to my hand. So I was able to keep my hand safe and pressure him a lot. So that's what this deck is really fun. So that's the grade 2s. For the grade 1s, we're only running 2 Dreadmaster. I really liked this card before, and I think he's super good in the Shiranui deck, which I tested with a little bit. But in this deck, I found that Dreadmaster was using up my Counterblast. I wanted to keep cards in hand, or like cards would keep going back to my hand because of Afterimage. So it actually synergizes really well with Afterimage because you drop your hand, and then you have less cards than them, and then you get it back, so it's like offensive and defensive. But it was really hard because the Counterblasts were tight, and ended up just being not as useful as I wanted to have him be at, and I wanted to make more room for the next grade 1, which is Tsubakuro, who's a 6k Afterimage, and he gets plus 5k guard shield at GB1, which is really good because the deck doesn't have much advantage, so getting a little bit of extra shield here and there works out. But then importantly, he has Afterimage, and that's why I switched Dreadmaster out for him, because I wanted to make a really aggressive deck with Afterimage. So having more Afterimage makes me a lot more aggressive in the early game without having to really commit, because it's just going to come back to hand. And then we have 4 Fukis. Again, for the early game binding, it drops their hand a little bit in the early game, and then lets you pressure even harder with your Afterimage units, because they're going to have less to guard with. So you hit them up to really high numbers, and then that bound card is going to go back to your opponent's hand, and so will your cards, so you get to keep up your advantage. And then lastly, we have 4 Afterimage Perfect Guards for the same reasons, just to, keep up. You can call them early with no fear because it's just going to go back to your hand once their bound card returns. And then it's also good because he has a skill to drop cards from their bind zone, so you can pick and choose. Every once in a while you might be able to kill a bound card, which does end up being useful, but not so much, mainly there for the Afterimage being aggressive. Then for the triggers, we're running 4 Afterimage stands because again, you can be really aggressive with them early, and then they'll just go back to your hand for shield, so you really don't have to worry about that. And then the other skill is really good. You call it, draw a card, and give a unit +3, and it goes back into your deck. So keep trigger count high, give some units some power, helps you hit some good numbers. So overall, really good card in the deck. 4 crits, 4 more crits, so 8 crit, and then 4 of the stands, and lastly 4 heals. Thanks for watching, Cardfighters. Hope you liked our nubatama deck profile. Focus around the Afterimage mechanic. It's very fun, very aggressive. Sometimes you don't draw all the combo pieces and it doesn't work out, but that's what keeps it fun. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think about the deck. What do you think about Shiranui decks? All the nubatama decks, very good. And give us a thumbs up, helps out a lot. And subscribe for more content. Vanguard Central, out.